out.
Hello, Doug.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good, thank you.
Good.
Michael, my son's getting this set up for me.
Nice. Tell him to come do mine too.
Excuse me?
I said, ask him to come do mine also.
Oh,
That won't happen.
yeah.
Just waiting for Dawn to show up.
Yeah, we're a little early.
Yeah. I'm always a little early because I'm afraid something will go wrong and I'll be unable to figure it out.
I don't know why things on, when they're on there, it's just, the TV doesn't do it, but it sounds kind of tinny. It's kind of hard.
Well, let's turn the volume down.
Oh, that might be it. It's like, well, it's kind of like being in a barrel. I suppose other people probably don't have that problem, but
It's a little echoey in here.
yeah,
It
yeah.
could just be me. It's an empty room, so it echoes.
Well, every person is going to be different, I guess, because they're going to be in a different location. So,
Okay. Well, I think you're all set.
yeah, good, thank you. So anyway, I walked down in there and got out, and I didn't take any water with me, so I was really, really thirsty. And there was water in the car that must have been about 80 or 90 degrees. So I drank it anyway. But then I didn't walk today. I'm doing my bed and different things. That's Eric. Huh? Is your sound on, Eric? Is your sound on?
Yeah, it's on.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay.
Eric, there was something on the news the other day about the 4th of July thing that we normally have. And they were gonna put it on TV. Or is that still on the schedule for the 4th of July here? I haven't heard anything about it.
Well, I don't know the answer to that question. I'd seen something about it was going to be simulcast on Channel 6, KOIN.
Yeah, I don't remember what station. It probably was 6.
Yeah.
But normally in the mail, I've gotten a request for money for $76, and I've always done that. And to my knowledge, I've not gotten anything this year, so I didn't even know they were going to have anything.
Yeah, as far as I know, it's still on, but I don't know about whether the broadcast is still on.
Oh,
I know they were going to try and close down most of the public spaces downtown just so they weren't going to get people gathered together in big groups.
Oh. It's kind of hard to have it where people can see it and then limit where people can go.
Yeah, I know.
I wouldn't think they'd worry about that, but
Well, I think they're, you know, how traditionally they've had a big viewing down at Riverfront Park and everything.
yes, I can see them
Mostly
closing
worried about
down.
that, and and the docks probably too.
Yeah. Huh. Well, 4th of July isn't very far away. I would think they would have been saying something about it.
Yeah.
It is next month, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah, just a couple weeks away, really.
it's only a couple of weeks away. I don't understand that. Maybe they found a new benefactor and they don't need any money.
Maybe.
It costs thousands to put that on.
Yeah, I can
You
imagine.
know, each one of those suckers are like $200 or $300 or more a piece. Those
Yeah.
cans. So, interesting. And uh-oh.
Bob, are you here? I think we'll have to give it a couple of minutes. I know that Donna Lawrence said she would not attend, but we're still waiting for Forrest and Bob.
Okay.
Forest.
Hey, everybody.
There.
Forest.
What?
Oh, there he is. Oh, there he is. Hi, Forrest.
Hi.
I don't know. He wasn't in his bed.
Maybe I got some sound now.
We do. We can hear you, Bob.
I'm having a connection fit, but just give me a break. For another second here.
Hey, you didn't have to get all dressed up for this meeting, Bob.
Well,
I don't know why other people's pictures don't show up.
what happened to me today was what should happen to everybody. They said, "Oh, you got an infection on your jaw, so we're going to open up your gum
Oh, there.
and get down and scrape the jaw infection away." And so I'm trying to heal up from that. It's 5 minutes after time. Are we ready to open the meeting?
We are.
I'm going to have trouble hearing because I cannot get the computer to come up. But that's life in the fast lane, I guess. Yeah, well, that worked out real good. My office is not designed as an office. All right, now I got my agenda in front of me. Hi, Forrest.
Hi, Bob.
Let me do something with this thing over here with the other tool. So quit looking at me. There, that'll quit looking at me. If everyone can hear me, I'll make my effort to hear them. Before I got hooked up, everyone, did you have a little session on ground rules?
No, we have not. You need to call the meeting to order, Bob.
You want the meeting called to order, and then we'll have our rules.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna call the Landmark Commission for the City of the Dells for the June 24th, 2020 meeting in session. And we will take our roll call. You will have to raise your hand when your name is called.
Eric Gleason. I see you. Bob McNary. I see you. Doug Leash.
Present.
Forrest Ercole.
Present.
Timothy McLaughlin.
Present.
Donna Lawrence said she would not join us today.
Thank you. The reason I'm asking about this, you will be controlling the audio. And if someone wants to talk, they're going to have to raise their hand. First of all, I got to get my picture so you can even see me. I'm ready for you to hook us up for audio. Is that the way I understand it?
Correct.
And when you vote, you're going to have to identify yourself verbally and your vote. You can't just, you're going to have to be very distinct about who is speaking and how they voted. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Sounds good, Bob.
Is there any other questions? Hearing none. There you go. I didn't see any. Maybe Paula's seen hands. we will do away with the Pledge of Allegiance in the sense, we don't have to do away with it. Just because we don't have a flag, we can still recite the Pledge of Allegiance together. And I'll lead off.
That's bad.
And what if I don't have a?
Yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the
The
republic
republic for which it stands,
stands one
one
nation
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
With
with
liberty and
liberty
justice
and
for all.
justice for all.
for all.
Very good.
Wonder why they went away.
All right. The next is the approval of the agenda.
That's
Uh,
Bob.
and I hope that everyone has a copy in front of them. And is there any addition to the agenda that they want to list? Hearing none, I'm saying that we need a motion to approve the agenda.
This is Eric. I'll move that we approve the agenda.
This is Doug Leash. I will second that motion.
All in favor, would you please say aye plus your name?
I, Doug Leash.
Aye, Eric Gleason.
Aye,
Aye,
Robert.
Forrest Erkley.
How'd that come out, Paula?
Thank you.
Okay. Next item we will go to is the minutes from the May 27th meeting. And have you had a chance to review those? And is there any corrections that you would like to make?
This is Eric. I had one correction. So it's in the staff and commissioner comment section where Commissioner Gleason is commenting on the new paint at 201 Washington Street. I didn't think that I said that there was a new awning installed, just that windows had been replaced.
I'm sorry, I think it was Dawn that said the new awning was installed.
Oh,
I'll make that
okay.
clear.
Okay, thank you.
Now, that is a correction. That is correct?
All right, I'll just start a new paragraph.
Okay. All in favor of the minutes is written then? Say aye. Aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Actually, if you could raise your hand, that helps me. Then it shows up on the record. Thank you. Oh, but wait, who made the motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as amended.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you.
Now we're ready. I missed the phase. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye. This is Forrest. Aye.
Bobby Neri, aye. Ooh, love. I'm not a big fan of Zoom. I'm doing well though. I'm here. I didn't quit. All right. Is there any public comment from anyone else at this meeting? Paula, anyone else tuned in?
No, everyone here is an applicant.
Okay, so we won't have to worry about public comments. That's what I'm saying. If anybody had something they wanted to talk about. Oh, good. Thank you, Don. You're nodding your head. That's going to be my big help. All right. We're going to go public hearing. And it worked out real well last time, but if you would like me to, I will read the public hearing procedures, or do we want Paula to read them again as she did last month? What is the feelings?
Your choice, Bob.
Okay, let me read them. Let's see how bad I can do.
All righty. I mean,
Wait till I reorganize my papers just a bit because they're gonna have to get some titles in here. Wait a minute, I gotta get that out of here. Yeah, whoa. That's terrible. There we go. There we go. Staff report. I found it. I knew it would be there. Terrible small desk. Okay, this is the time specified for the Historic Landmark Commission to conduct a public hearing. The purpose of this public hearing is to consider the following matter, and I will list the top one. And this is the one for Scott Austin. The property location is 412 Washington Street, The Dells, Oregon. And he is requesting some building modifications. And I can't remember what else, but nevertheless, the application says facade and structural modifications to the rear of the parking lot. Substantive criteria upon which the Historic Landmark Commission will base this decision in this manner are contained by the city comprehensive plan and the land use and development ordinances. A public hearing is required by law, and certain rules apply. First and foremost, you must be recognized by the chair in order to speak and present testimony. When recognized by the chair, please proceed to the microphone and state your name and a mailing address for the record. This hearing is required by law to be tape recorded. Generally, the public hearing procedures are as follows. Prior to the public hearing, a determination will be made to the qualifications of the commission members and allow for challenges from the audience. I will open the public hearing with a staff report. The purpose of the staff report is to further identify the applicant's criteria of the case being considered and to provide background information about the case. After the staff report, we will hear testimony from the proponents, these people in favor of the application. Next, there will be a testimony from the opponents, those not in favor of the application. We had another little line added here, and it says, after both of these testimonies, we will be open to anyone that wishes to make testimonies on either question. Then the honor of the right of rebuttal, and we'll again hear from the people, pardon me, in favor of the application. To speed the hearing, the commission members may add questions of the persons as they testify. When this process has been concluded, we will close the public hearing portion of this meeting. During the public hearing, some important standards apply. First of all, those who testify must hold their testimony to the decision criteria. As in law, all land use hearings, there is a complete set of rules, procedures, and criteria we must follow. Second, failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the commission members and the parties in this opportunity to respond to that issue precludes an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. Third, the failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues related to proposed conditions of approval will detail specifically enough to allow the city to respond to the issue, proclaim that action for damages in the circuit court. Fourth, prior to the conclusion of the public hearing, any participant may request an opportunity to present additional information, arguments, or testimony regarding the application. If such a request is made, the law states that the commission must grant the request by either continuing the hearing to a time and date at least 7 days from the date of the initial hearing, or the record must be kept open for that period for at least 7 days. Now, there's a lot of questions I know for you people, but that is our rule. As a member of the commission, any member of this commission, do you have an impropriety contract, conflict of interest, or bias, which would not allow you to render an impartial decision in this manner? Please raise your hand if you have a problem. Seeing none, we will go to the next. Does anyone in the audience want to challenge the qualifications of the members of this commission? And not knowing where the audience is, I'm having a hard time distinguishing on that one. And jumping right into this now, the public hearing is now open. And I think we're ready for you, Dawn, and I'm going to have a cough drop.
Okay, so actually Josh Chandler will be presenting the staff report today for the Scott Austin application.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Joshua Chandler, Community Development Department. As Don mentioned, we will be discussing first the Historic Landmarks Commission
Josh, can you
application.
put your microphone down?
Yeah, I was told I was too loud last time, so I put it up. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Everybody hear me all right?
Mhm.
All right.
Yes.
So we are going to discuss first HLC application 178-20. Don and I are both going to have PowerPoint presentations today. So it's a share screen function. So if there's any issues seeing your screen up in the right-hand corner, it might be easier to toggle with the view. One second here. Everybody see it all right, the PowerPoint?
Yes.
All right. So as mentioned, this is application 174-20 for Scott Austin. The property is 412 Washington Street. We're going to discuss Suite B, which is the back building. This property has 2 buildings on site. Scott has been, since purchasing the building, Scott has been pretty active in our office, going through all types of applications to get this to what it looks like today. At the top, there's a little bit of a typo there. HLC 174-20 was actually the last application submitted. That application was withdrawn by the applicant after preparing the staff report for 174-20, which we presented to you in February. After we published the staff report, the applicant found some significant damage on the back building, which will be discussed today. This is the front building, Building A. It's probably the reason this property has the significance that it does. I mentioned there's 2 buildings on site. We will be discussing Building B. This is an area in town, right off about 4th and Washington. We will be looking, this is the front building that you just saw. We'll be looking at this back building. It's connected by a breezeway right in here, carport covered, slightly covered area. Existing conditions of Building B looks quite different. Even before the renovations, the 2 buildings are quite different. The front building is an example of the Art Moderne architecture movement. The back building, very utilitarian, a box essentially. As you can see, it's in over years. Patching has occurred, different colors of siding, different brick placements throughout. Over here, you can see a white vinyl window that was installed sometime in the past. Existing conditions around the rest of the building. To go back up, I want to point out this area here. This is an area that we will be talking about. This is the cracking that the applicant noticed, of course, in the beginning of owning the property, but after looking at it further, realized the significance to the damage. The breezeway that I pointed out, we will talk about a little bit later. This is the, it's really just a concrete, CMU concrete block wall that has these old steel windows in them. They connect, it's in the carport area, and it connects buildings A and building B. So the concrete, those cracks that you can see in these pictures, these are the cracks that the applicant reached out to some foundation specialists and found that the corner of the building is actually sinking, which is causing these cracks. After further investigation, you could see that this building, most likely this area here, this northeast corner, was most likely an addition to the back building at some point. The proposal today, well, the proposal for the back building altogether is listed here. Some of the big things that we'll be talking about and touching on, the proposal to install hardy plank siding, which is a fiber cement siding over the varying textures of that back building, replacing some steel windows that are on the back building with vinyl windows to match black vinyl windows that were approved previously for building A. The thought is to save as many of the steel windows as possible. A lot of them are in pretty bad shape, so the applicant is hoping to take the pieces that he can, essentially piecemeal it in, and try to save at least the 3 windows in the breezeway that the picture that showed earlier. Also, substantial project here is demolishing the front corner of the northeast corner of the building. And then once that is done, remodeling that area and essentially bringing it back with the same finishes that they are proposing, the applicant is proposing for the rest of building B. So this is 3D rendering. The next couple photos are a 3D rendering provided by the applicant. This is the area, and that is what they have intended for the project. This is a look into the proposed look into the breezeway area and back to the north elevation with the, the canopy there, kind of highlighting the canopy. I think it's, I believe, metal rod or chains to hold that canopy. And these are the 2 colors that are being proposed. The colors match building A. So to get into it, I've provided kind of detailed analysis of, what is being proposed, but I think, the big sticking points on this is the fact that the applicant is looking to install a cement fiber board hardy plank over all the different varying textures on building B. Obviously, there is no what looks to be shiplap siding on this building at all. The front building is what's considered like a shotcrete. It looks a lot like stucco. It's a sprayed on concrete with color in it. So the proposal to put in horizontal siding on the back of the building does not match the front. One thing that is pointed out many times in this report, and staff is trying to stress that these 2 buildings, the property itself has the historic significance, not one building or the other. That's something to keep in mind. However, the back building and the front building look nothing alike. There's really no features. Staff really feels that the back building, really the only features that it may have of historic significance are the steel, the gridded out black steel frame windows, which were actually not on building A even. So they have 2 very distinct styles, and building B has very little historic significance. I think there is 1 sentence in the historic registry that talks about the fact that there is a back building. That is about it. Also, the other things to keep in mind that we'll be discussing here, the replacement of these windows throughout building B. As you can see, this window is currently a black window on the back of the property as a steel window, excuse me, as well as this. Those would be those that are replaced of the steel windows, excuse me. This window here actually is that white vinyl window. So trying to get a look to match the rest of the property by taking out, of course, a non-historic vinyl window. And then this window in here is actually a window that currently exists, and depending on the damage, of course, trying to find some uniformity throughout the building with vinyl windows, but this window may help restore the other windows in the breezeway. But essentially this area here, these openings already exist. This was an exterior door, to believe to be exterior door at some point. This goes out onto the alleyway, and then you have this window that's completely enclosed into a room. And of course, you know, the big thing to be discussed is removing this area altogether. Sorry for throwing these slides around at you guys. But it's essentially removing it. It's a substantial project. The applicant was quoted on all these projects and found, you know, they can elaborate on the quotes and the information later on. But you know, this was a significant cost difference to remove the building than it was to try to stabilize these beams down here. When they had the foundation specialists come out, they located some utilities right in this area. There's a power pole, there's a gas line. It's a substantial project no matter what, but the restabilization was found to be quite expensive compared to the removal and the remodel of the building. How I did, you know, where staff included in our staff report, you know, that the commission, you know, may request an alternative siding and window material that is being proposed. This may be a condition of approval if it is felt that needed to be that way, but this is the proposal that the applicant has submitted to us. And I believe I covered everything. And please let me know if anybody has any additional questions.
Who muted Bob?
I unmuted him. Did he mute himself? No, Bob, you're muted. I keep trying, it's him.
Bob, you need to unmute yourself.
You muted yourself. We can't hear you.
It's in the bottom left corner, Bob. Should be a little microphone button. I don't know.
Still can't hear you.
The meeting organizers should be able to unmute him.
We tried. There we go, Bob.
There you go.
I made it. It wasn't in the bottom. It was right in the middle. Okay.
Oh,
Can I plug my earphones back in again? Now am I muted again?
No, you're perfect.
Okay. All right. So now you're waiting. Don, are you going to make some kind of report? I thought that was a wonderful one that Josh just gave us. Did you have something you wanted to add at this point?
I do not.
Okay. I want to make one comment here. Maybe it's the wrong thing, but we are only in the historic district as far as this particular building is concerned. And near as I can read anything you sent to me, it was never really considered an historic building with any kind of significance. It was an auxiliary something.
Well, actually, Bob, the property does have eligible contributing per SHPO standards, as well as a secondary significance within the historic district. So, and as mentioned, I believe this might be assumption that the front building is what gets this significance more so than the back building. The back building is very much an accessory building installed on the property at some point.
What I'm really driving at, Josh, and maybe I'm all out of line, but I think the owner is bending over backwards to make this an attractive pair of buildings inside of our historic district. And it's really hard to say with clear conscience that we're destroying a piece of history by doing too much to this building. All right. So we're ready for the proponent to make his presentation. John, has the staff report is in, so we should have our, Mr. Austin, are you there?
Scott, you're muted.
Pardon? The owner is not going to appear today.
I'm
No,
here.
he's here.
Yep, the proponent is here.
Hi, Bob.
Hi.
Scott, can you please give me your name and address? I mean, I know it, but you have to say it.
Yeah, Scott Austin, Scioto, Oregon.
What's your PO box in the Dalles?
I don't have a PO box in the Dalles. I have one in Jefferson's, PO Box 196.
Okay, thank you.
Are you ready for me?
Yes, Scott, we're waiting on you.
Okay. Well, thanks again for reviewing this. I hope everybody's doing well. As Josh had mentioned, you know, the windows and the hardy plank siding, you know, our whole purpose in those steel windows is to salvage enough parts and pieces to restore the ones in between the buildings in that retaining wall or that separation wall to at least show what the historical windows were originally like. And I think we have enough, excuse me, parts, pieces, and the chicken wire glass throughout the other windows in the building to put those 3 windows in the breezeway there in pretty good shape. I believe it was Forrest on our last meeting that asked me if we had done any research on wood windows versus vinyl windows in that building. And we did do some research, and I'll give you a couple numbers on the difference from the wood windows from the vinyl windows as far as cost perspective goes. For the wood windows, we were quoted about $26,500 for wood windows to put into that building. And when you're looking into the vinyl windows, which match the windows that we were approved to put in the back part of the front building, Building A, it's about $7,600. So quite a bit of difference there. So when you look at the window costs of $26,000, the repairs to the foundation of upwards between, we have a quote for 35, but we were told through them that you better estimate high, because depending on what we run into, that cost could go up substantially. And so we're guesstimating somewhere between $45,000 to $50,000 at the end of the day by the time we're done. And we tried to, you guys seen the renderings that Josh put up there. We're trying to give the building, you know, a very good look out there. And we tried to add the little metal canopy there to try and give it a little bit different appeal, as far as, I don't know if it really falls into historic, but you've seen a lot of buildings with that kind of awnings on them. And, you know, like Bob had mentioned, you know, there's been a lot of time and effort and work that's went into, you know, even getting to this point. And our whole point, our whole goal is to, again, save an existing building that, you know, at a certain point, you know, it's not going to last too much longer on its own. And I guess that's probably about it. And it's kind of up to you guys what next steps will be.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now is the time for anyone that might be wanting to say something in opposition to this. Do we have anyone, Paula, that is in the footlights
No.
ready to step forward?
No,
All right, well, I don't know how you could give a rebuttal to yourself, so consequently, we'll kind of open this up in a sense, maybe a little bit strange, but this is a real strange program for me. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to ask questions of Mr. Austin?
Doug, you're muted.
I had just some general comments. One is that I'm pleased that he's going to try to save those windows in the alleyway. You know, they're a distinct part of that era of architecture, and it's too bad he can't save more of them, but the other ones are really chopped up. So I think that those three that are on the back side of the alleyway, that's really nice that he's able to save those. One of the things when I was reading through our fact-finding stuff is that they continually talk about preserving the style or the finish. I underlined it. I've got it underlined in about 4 different or 5 different places. And, you know, the original building in the front and the back one, I realize is broken up and it's concrete here and cracks, but generally it's stucco. And if we agree to go with the hardy plank, that's going to completely change the personality of that. I'm not saying that it wouldn't look good, but I'm just wondering, with the front building being stucco, whether that we want to go that far to completely change the personality of it. I'm not concerned particularly, I guess, about the black vinyl windows. I know it'd be nice if they were wood, but that's very, very expensive. So I'm not really concerned about that. I'm not concerned about taking that corner out, considering how much money it would cost to try to go underneath it and stabilize it. One thing that hasn't been mentioned, and I know we don't have any regard probably to what's inside of those buildings, but I've been inside of the 2 units in the back, and they both have skylights, and they're metal like the other metal windows. And there's one of the pictures that we have, and we haven't talked about it, was restoring the roof. And I don't know whether that means taking out those skylights. They're really cool. And I know that when I've been down there and talked to him, and he was talking about the fact that it would be, I don't know whose phone that is, that it would be more cost effective if they weren't there, I think he said. But they're really neat. And one of them has some chain workings on them, and to open them, apparently when they were using it as a dry cleaners, they vented with that. And I guess I was thinking, it's kind of, to me, it's reminiscent of all of the mechanical stuff at the grain elevator that we're going to be talking about. You know, they've saved all of that mechanical stuff on the inside. And, I think it'd be nice if those could be kept. I know on the inside of an historic building, you can pretty much do anything you want. It's the exterior that the commission is concerned about. But anyway, those are just some of my thoughts.
You're muted again, Bob.
We can't hear you, Bob.
It's down there somewhere.
It says unmute, but it's not.
So Bob, you need to unmute on your end. So you can leave it alone and Paula can control your mute, but we need you to unmute yourself now. He can't hear you. There you go, perfect.
All set.
Okay, I'm unmuted. I don't know why that keeps flashing up in the center of my screen, but that I see it now. And I've been ignoring it. Sorry. Mr. Scott Austin, do you have anything you want to comment about? We're not really involved in the interior of your building, but the windows go all the way through.
And Josh may be able to answer some questions regarding those roof flaps too, if you want, Todd.
Pardon?
Would you like staff to answer or at least provide some additional information on those, on the skylights, Doug?
I'm having such a time understanding you, Scott.
I can speak. Don, actually, we did not discuss the skylights, to be completely honest. But yeah, if this is something that the commission feels it needs to be discussed, yeah, I would recommend that discussion continue. There was I believe, possibly my mistake, I think I may have missed it, for the fact that the front building also did not have these skylights on it. So the installation of the new parapet roofing on building A, that was not a detail that they had to deal with on building A. So I apologize, but if we'd like to discuss it further, I think it might be a great idea.
All right, where are we now? Am I back on the air or am I off again?
You are on, Bob.
You're good, Bob, but I also had a question regarding the steel windows. This is Forrest, by the way. Is there a specific reason why they're going to be installed on the breezeway? Is that because of where they're currently located and it's just easier to install them, like repiece the 3 that we're salvaging and putting them on that location instead of doing it somewhere where it might be more visible?
So the 3 that are currently exist in the breezeway, and it could be due to size, it could be due to condition. I'm not too sure. I do know that the applicant did mention they're going to do their best. I mean, I have quite a bit of experience working with windows, not so much steel windows, but I do know that there's areas that can be repaired, and there's also some areas that was provided to us that the applicant did not feel like they were in the best condition to repair. So, like as mentioned, there could be possibly that those are the best kept windows at this point. But the applicant may be able to provide more information about the location and why the choice to repair the breezeway windows.
The 3 in the back of the breezeway are the ones that are in the best condition. The ones when you're looking into the breezeway, it would be on your left if you were to turn. Those have been cut into and some kind of a blower system or something was put in. They're really chopped up. And the ones on the back of the building are in a little better shape, but the best ones are the ones on the back side of the breezeway. There's not very much broken glass and the metal frames are all intact.
If we have no further questions.
Oh, I have some.
Eric, pardon me.
Sorry. My thought was maybe also those windows are not in a heated, air-conditioned space as well. I don't know if the breezeway has that kind of connection. Also, I was going to ask Don, so is it our ordinance that specifically requests wood windows as preferred replacements, and even in the case of metal windows, which are original?
In our design guidelines, it does call that out, but in this instance, yes, it would probably make more sense to have a metal type window or something that was more similar to the original. But yeah, our design guidelines say wood, so maybe we need to look at revising that and maybe stating wood or original or similar to original, and kind of update those standards, because wood is what's written.
Yeah, I think that might be appropriate now that we're moving into an era where it was more common to have metal windows.
Correct.
Then on that point, I know that people do make replica metal windows, and also in both aluminum and steel. And I don't know whether we could request that he also examine that and see whether it's as cost effective as vinyl, because it would be definitely more appropriate. I guess I just have a trouble with vinyl windows and as replacements in any historic building. But that's my kind of preference. And I also agree with Doug about the hardy siding would just change kind of the entire character of the building.
All right.
I was just gonna say, if we did agree to the shiplap siding, I was just curious why it would be the hardy plank instead of a composite or just wood. A more like wood would be a much more natural material, but that's just another question I thought about.
I have no real basic experience, but placing wood over a concrete surface like that, you are asking for insect problems. You'd have to get some way to preserve it so that they wouldn't attack it from the backside. I have experienced that just a little bit. You got to get it out and get it treated. Hearing no further questions of staff or the applicant, I would move that we go into the closed hearing of the commission members alone and see if we can come up with what we would think would be acceptable to how to approach this building. So I'm banging my gavel, and the public hearing part of this is closed, and now we're to the commission. Am I on the right track, Dawn?
You are, unless you wanted to have some answers from the applicant. If you feel that you have enough information and are ready to proceed, absolutely, you can close the public hearing.
What I am hearing is that there is questions of the applicant, but I hate to hear him from three different groups. I would like very much at this time if we as a commission could kind of consolidate our thoughts before we go back to Mr. Austin and say, you know, this is what we're thinking. And that's just my own personal attitude at this point, because I've heard some different things. And as far as what I've read here, Doug, they have mentioned the roof. We were going to get it, wasn't that in the applicant, Josh?
The roof, yeah, it's something that we have very little review for the historic landmarks. There is a metal parapet flashing that goes around the top of the roof. Maybe not a parapet, but just flashing going around. But there was no mention in the staff report about the skylights. They are not visible from the street.
How you want to handle that? I am not familiar with, like Doug is, that they was ever there. So consequently, it's hard for me to make any kind of a judgment. How do we handle this, Dawn?
So kind of like Josh had mentioned that, you know, it is part of the roof system, and like Doug mentioned too, it is a cool part of the roof system. However, the reuse and redevelopment of this back building isn't going to be utilizing or doesn't have plans to utilize that. Your job as the Historic Landmark Commission is to preserve the exterior of the building. And while that may technically be the exterior, it's the roof and it's not visible. So number one priority for the Historic Landmark Commission is to ensure that the historic integrity, and then the view, what we're seeing from the exterior still is historic. So you could go either way. You could look at it and make a statement that yes, you feel that those are a very important part to that building. They should be preserved. Or you could state they're not visible from the street, and it doesn't, make sense, and it doesn't function that way anymore, and he can close over those skylights.
Because I see in the report that it says it's a mop-down roof that would be replaced and put on with a new membrane and all that. Have no idea that there was skylights in it from my point of view. It's throwing something at me that I had no idea about. So I didn't know where we went. We're not trying to camouflage anything, I'm sure. I'm still holding that we should confer amongst ourselves as a commission and really agree on what we would ask the applicant to do, rather than ask him to explore 3 different things. That could be the wrong approach, but that's the way I see it at this point. Doug, are you ready to make a proposal that for us, not for him, for us, for the commission members to agree on?
Well, again, my concern, like Eric's, is changing the exterior of the building to make it completely different than it was. I realize that it would clean it up, but I think that they make all kinds of textured paints and very heavy bodied paints. I know the cracks in some of maybe that concrete block that's on one side would show up a little bit through whatever material you put on it, but I would think that it would be better to keep it in keeping with the front building, unless it's just totally irrelevant. But if it's on the register as an historic part of the other building, it would seem to me that it should be stucco rather than that hardy plank. Not that, I've helped put that on other buildings and it's nice looking. I just don't know whether it's right for this project. I don't know whether Eric wants to say more about that, but.
With this removal and I'm going to say addition of 2 new exterior walls, how is that going to work? That'll have to match up with the wall that we see in the alley. When he takes that part of the building down, we're going to have 2 new walls that we can't see now.
I think those are already in the building. I think there was because that was an addition onto the previous building. So there's an interior doorway as well right now. So there's 2 doorways.
Exactly.
The way I see the picture, it's a cutout.
Yeah, so Bob, as Forrest mentioned, for clarification on that, the area that is being removed through the different, inspecting of the building, they noticed that really the cracking is happening at essentially the joint of which an old remodel happened. That's the assumptions. It's also, additional investigation. Well, additional evidence on it shows that there is a steel framed window that is currently completely enclosed within a room, and then there's also an old exterior door that's completely enclosed. It's actually closed off from the inside. So yeah, it was an additional add-on room that could appeared to only be accessed from the outside with a sliding door. At this point is very difficult to move. So yeah, it's you will expose a former exterior wall.
That's my assumption. And so consequently, we're talking about 2 things that we can't even see. As far as that inside window, we didn't even know it was there as a commission. But we're looking only at exteriors.
Exactly. At this point, we're looking at exteriors. But once that corner building comes off, you will have 2 walls that need to be finished at whatever finish. If it is a replica of, or stucco, Shotcrete, whatever, or if it is that area will have the hardy plank siding put onto it.
What do you think, Eric?
When that part is removed, if I've been in that room, it seems to me that on the one side, don't know whether that's right or left, but anyway, I think there were the metal windows were on that wall, if I remember right. There's a door on one side and some windows on the other. And that, you're right, you can tell when you're in that room that it was added on, that it wasn't an original part of the building. Oh. And I don't remember, I didn't pay, because I didn't know we were going to be talking about taking that part off. I don't know what kind of shape those windows were in. The one problem with the metal windows, I guess, is that, they're not double pane. And if you're making it a usable space or you're going to rent it out, why there would be some concern about heat going through them unless you put another interior or exterior window over them to control the heat and make it like it had an air pocket. I don't know whether that's possible or not, but.
Yeah, and it is. It was mentioned by the applicant that it is obviously installing vinyl windows. They'll have more energy efficiency.
Forrest,
Sir.
are you helping us here at this point? Have you got some good thoughts? Bad thoughts?
I definitely don't want to go with the wood anymore on the windows because, yeah, that cost is just exuberant to go with the wood. I didn't even consider the options of, like Eric said, like steel, just going all steel through all the windows, or aluminum. So I'm curious what the cost might be for those. But also with the exterior, I did get an email shortly before the meeting today regarding the Civic Center's approval for the siding of the shiplap siding. So I don't know if everyone saw that. I did want to bring that to the commission's attention that the Civic did approve, they said, oh yeah, we like the siding idea. But I just want to mention that.
Eric, are you out there?
I am.
Can you add something here that?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess, my thoughts are, I had trouble with the Hardy siding before, and I still have trouble with it just because it's such a substantial change to the appearance of the building. I guess I can see, I'm glad that the applicant is going to retain some of the metal windows, and I see why he chose to retain the ones that he chose to retain. I'd like to encourage him to investigate replacing the metal windows with metal windows instead of vinyl windows if it's economically feasible. I guess I'd like to see that as kind of a condition of approval, kind of leave it in his court, but encourage him to do that. And then maybe a condition about encouraging the retention of the historic skylights, not do it as a requirement, but encourage their retention. And then just not approve the Hardy siding. Those are my thoughts.
Do we have a consensus of what we would really like to ask of the applicant? Specifically now, after talking to all three of you, do we go back and say we're not real pleased with the Hardy siding, or want to add on something about the skylights?
So I don't mean to speak for the group, but I feel the general consensus is we don't like the Hardy siding. We would prefer metal framed windows. We would like the retention of the skylights, but it's not a requirement. And am I missing anything? I think that's general consensus.
I would agree with that. That's where I'm coming from.
That sounds good to me.
Okay,
So I do have, if you want me to go ahead and, we could rewrite condition number 6 to read the use of like metal windows is recommended. So basically remove the wood portion in the municipal code. And number 7, we could add encourage the retention of skylights. Number 7, and then did I hear you guys the commission is thinking to require the shotcrete or the concrete versus the ship or the hardy plank?
I don't think we had a consensus on what siding to be used. It's just, I think we were just against the hardy plank because it's changing the exterior so drastically.
Okay.
I think that any kind of a product that they can either paint on, spray on, that has a lot of texture to help cover up whatever imperfections there are. I don't know whether we could put any more stipulation on it than that. Some of it can be shot on, some of it's painted on. I don't know.
Don,
Yes.
we are changing the application. Is this something that we're not supposedly to do? I don't think that's our job, either we approve or disapprove, but we're making recommendations to the applicant. Can we have this continued?
So yes, you can, but what you can also do, and what we've done in the past, is try to come up, rather than deny an application, we could come up with conditions of approval that, we recommend that, maybe modifying number 1 to also include the installation of shotcrete or a similar material and not the hardy plank siding, so that we could get an approval. Mr. Austin, so either that or we can continue the hearing. I'm not sure what we would be gaining by prolonging the hearing and not getting a decision, unless somebody thinks that we could get some additional information. But what we could do then, if we could approve it with these modified conditions, the commission could state that, and if Mr. Austin was not in favor of the conditions, he would always appeal any decision that's made by the Historic Landmark Commission to the City Council.
I don't want to imply or even come close to implying that we're being hard and we're not easy to deal with. I want them to understand that we're wanting to do whatever we can to work with them. I'm confused when I looked at this application about demoing part of the building. And we haven't discussed, there's no recourse there other than do it. But are we destroying something that's historic?
No, I believe that the only portion that we were just going to be destroying was the extra addition, which we have determined was an addition and not the original secondary building, Building B.
I agree with you. But it's just something, when we're saying we're going to cut half of the building off, or a quarter or an eighth or anything, that is not normal for our procedures.
I understand.
Yeah, and that is a point. I mean, there is, the finding of, removing a section of a building. The historic property shall be retained and preserved. But as mentioned, there's evidence to believe that those 2 exterior walls that enclosed that area, it's once again a different material. I think they just used regular CMU block possibly in that section. They're definite different materials than used on the majority of Building B. They enclosed an exterior door, an exterior window. And I think that the side of it that the applicant, of course, is pushing is is the cost and the substantial project of retaining that section of a building that was presumed to be an addition.
We're coming back closer to my opening statement. What are we doing with this historic building that really wasn't too historic? If you understand what I'm trying to say. All right. Do we want to make a motion, Don, at this point that we do what?
So it's up to you, and kind of the direction that I received from you was modifying COA number 6, which is the use of metal-like windows is recommended. So modifying that to that. And then number 7 would be encourage the retention of the skylights on building B. And I'm not sure if you wanted me to modify number 1 to exclude the installation of the hardy plank siding.
Now, in my hearing and my mental attitude, is someone ready to make that into a motion? Or do we need it as a motion?
Yes, you would need it as a motion, and you would need to let me know if you wanted all 3 of those to modify, or the addition and the 2 modified, or just the modification of 6 and addition of 7.
I would make a motion that we go with the recommended conditions of approval with the change to condition 6, the addition of condition 7, and the modification to condition 1 to include the non-use of hardy siding.
Is there someone that would like to second?
I'll second the motion, Doug Leash.
Is there any more discussion on this, or can we call for the question?
I was having a problem, when Dawn is talking, it sounds like she's in a barrel, and I didn't catch all of what she said, but if Eric thinks that was okay, why I would go along with that.
Would you like me to reread it, Doug?
Well, the room that you're in echoes, and I'm hard of hearing anyway, so if Eric thinks that that's all right, if you restated, I wouldn't be able to tell what you were saying anyway, so.
Okay.
It was fine with me.
Okay.
All right, I'm calling for the question. All in favor of this motion that Eric made, and I won't try to repeat it, say aye and raise your hand or identify yourself.
Aye.
Forrest, aye.
Eric, aye.
Aye. Bob?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Bob, I'm going to save you a little bit on this. So because we have had no changes in people that have entered the meeting, you will not have to reread the entire public hearing rules. But you will need to do the ex parte and announce the application.
I'll try not to be quite so flustered this time because I was absolutely flustered when I was trying to get after getting this up. So we'll get started on the next one with a little clearer understanding of each other. All right. Here we are, I think. This is application. Having no additions to our audience, we are going to open up our second application. And this is an application number 179-20. And this is for the Sunshine Mill. And the address for that is 901 East 2nd Street, The Dells, Oregon. And they have a real grocery list of things for us to consider today. So I'm gonna turn it over to staff. Is everyone up to speed of where we are?
So Bob, I do need you to ask if there's any ex parte contact.
Pardon?
We need to ask if there's any ex parte contact with any members.
Oh, well, certainly.
I
Is
do
there
need that
anyone here
part.
that feels that they have a contact, have expatriate interest in the Sunshine Mill, any one of our commission members?
No.
Hearing none.
No.
No.
No, I'm not gonna go any further. I'll just get in trouble. All right, Don, you heard from Forrest, you heard from Bob. Doug, have you got any conflict of interest?
No. No.
Eric?
No.
No, I think is that what you wanted, Don?
That's what I wanted, and then you'll need to open the public hearing.
Okay, we'll open the public hearing, and I've already put a number on it. I hope it came through. And we'll ask for the staff report, and I believe you're presenting this one.
Perfect, thank you, Mr. McNary. As you stated, this application is for the Sunshine Mill, and I have prepared a PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to be sharing with you now. Oops, I'm sorry. Perfect.
You're looking my way, but I hope it isn't me that you're waiting on.
No, it's
There we
me.
You just need to do your sunshine now.
Okay. Your screen sharing from the beginning. Okay. Alrighty, can you all see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. So the Sunshine Mill is implying today, and the application before you is to install doors on the east face of the mill building, install additional doors to the silo building, as well as replace and install new railings around the roof of the silo and mill buildings. I also had the applicant provide me with some photos that were in your packet that pertained to some exterior lighting and lighted arches that will be part of the site. Even though those would be considered minor in nature and something that I would probably approve without bringing before you, I just thought it was kind of a nice addition so you could see what their plans are for the site. So, here we go. So application number 179-20, Discover Development Sunshine Mill. And we do have James and maybe Molly Martin here today to answer questions, if we do have any. So vicinity map, you I think are all pretty familiar with the Sunshine Mill. The building is locally landmarked, and the remaining building of primary significance is the actual original domed building that, going through the history just recently, in 2003, there was a demolition permit that was issued, a request before the Historic Landmark Commission that was denied, or a delay was put on that demolition, and the application ended up going to City Council, and then Urban Renewal ended up stepping in ultimately, and the current owners, James and Molly Martin of Discover Development, were able to actually save the one building, and that is where their bottling operation is. So pretty, it's probably one of my favorite things. So just kind of giving you a little bit of an existing condition. I do want to point out that I apologize for not including the engineer report in your submittal, and I hope that you all received that via email yesterday. So here is the actual mill building and the silo building. And here's the backside. So some of these are the murals that are shown on the building. This was what was sent. The proposed new door openings on the mill building are shown here in the red at the bottom, and that they actually have shear walls and piers that are going to be remaining in between. This is, I did receive this photo today, and Mr. Martin may be able to answer a little bit more. These are the original Carnegie Library doors that they plan to use for, oopsie, go back. Oopsie, sorry, yes. That they plan to use for the openings here. So they will actually be having some wood doors that will be going in.
Don, the picture you just showed, back up one. Can you back up one? That the red boxes underneath the windows are those doors, or what are they?
Those are the doors that they are proposing to extend below the grade so that they can have access to the basement of that mill building.
Okay,
So
thank
those
you.
will be the doors, you bet.
Okay.
So this is just an example of some of the doors that will be, excuse me, oh my gosh, sorry, I'm using a different mouse here. So a style of the doors that will be going in that building.
I had a question. So
Okay.
those 4 openings, was it 4 openings? They're going to be cut in below those windows, but those windows are going to be retained?
Correct.
And each one of those is going to be a doorway?
That they're going to be openings. Mr. Martin can explain as to what the use of those. So there will be entrances and openings. I'm not sure exactly if they'll be operating as doors or if they'll be part of an operation for the manufacturing component of their business, or if it will be something that'll be used for future plans. So right now you can obviously see one that looks a little bit more like a man door, where these look a little bit more industrial in nature, or a little bit more for probably a commercial type use.
Great.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, thanks. That's all I had.
Okay, so on the silo building, this is actually the area that they're looking to open and have a door installed at this location. This is the interior of that area, and you can kind of see what it looks like at one time. This isn't the greatest, but you can see that there was some sort of either opening or modification. I'm not sure exactly what it is, and James may be able to answer a little bit more as to what was originally there at the bottom of that silo. So this is the interior. It's a 4-inch thick infill wall between the massive silo columns. So it does not rely on this thin wall that's here. So they won't have you can see the thickness there. And then this is their actual entrance to their winery, which is if you come onto the site and past the old Wasco warehouse, the real historic portion of the building, this is the entrance that you see. So what their plan is to use materials similar to these to go into the door space here. So that will be, it'll be similar materials as what is actually on the warehouse that goes in, that goes into the mill. So this is actually the front end of the mill. This application also includes fencing that they're going to be installing on the top of the silos in the mill building. This is the current fencing that they have on one of their lower buildings that is attached to the mill. So it'll be very similar in style as their plan. This is what the current conditions are on the roof of the mill. These are the silo buildings here. So you can see that these obviously do not meet code. And in order to provide safety for employees and or visitors, they do need to upgrade that fencing system. This is, I kind of went down and chopped down their plan just a little bit to kind of make it a little less, James provided some great detail, but it got a little bit, as Bob and I talked yesterday, it was kind of hard to understand. So I cut out just some pieces that I thought were pretty pertinent. You can see along the outside of the silos around the entire silo roof that is where the proposed railings will actually be. Their plan is that they be 8 inches high and that they have their posts. I'm not sure
Is that 8 feet?
That's what it looks like. It's stated here is 8 feet in height.
So
Oh, I'm
substantially,
sorry, feet, sorry. Did I say inches? Oops, sorry. It's a little more than 8 inches, 8 feet. Sorry. Okay. So this is also just kind of a rendering that is showing the railing there, as well as showing some of the openings that are on the mill building, on the silos. Oh, here we go. 8-foot railing, and their end posts would be 12 feet in height. And this is the other part that I had brought up that isn't necessarily something that needed to necessarily be brought to you, but I just thought it was a little great piece to show. So this is the historic Wasco warehouse mill that was actually saved. They do manufacturing in a back part, and then they have like the small event space here. If any of you haven't been down there, I would highly suggest to check it out. They've done a great job, and a lot of stuff is period, and it's just, it's pretty exciting to see what's happening down there. So that is the courtyard. Here is the courtyard that I would consider between the silos and the mill building. It's kind of a raised area here, and they have some seating, and they have like a little built-in steps, kind of like a little stage down below. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Amphitheater. Thank you. Right there. Oops. So and here's another view of that area that I was just explaining. So up here they have some games, things like that. They've got stairs down here, and then you can access the mill here as well as go down under that railing photo that I showed you earlier to gain access to the silos as well as the mill building ground floor where the winery is located. Okay, so this is the lighted arch locations, and it is a little rudimentary, but it kind of gives you a good idea of what they're thinking. So this is the area, so in the courtyard areas, both here and out in front are where they plan to do some of these lighted arches. This shows the lighted arch area proposed as the hot pink, kind of showing a little bit just to illuminate that area. And this is just examples that they had brought and are included in your packet. So I just picked a couple. I didn't put everything in there. And then this is an artistic rendering for future plans. So obviously this is not what is brought today, but this was part of their marketing packet that was included in your packet. And I just thought I would show you. And as some of you may remember, the plans when it was originally purchased was to have like an artisan type event, as well as looking to do some motel or hotel, like an upper scale hotel themed in the silos. So if Mr. Martin would like to explain a little bit more about that, definitely ask, but that is not part of the packet. I just went ahead and kept it there. So with that, staff is recommending approval. And I provided 7 conditions of approval. And do you have any questions of staff?
This is Eric. I had one question. Do you know how high the existing railings are?
I do not, but we could, the applicant is here, so we could ask the applicant to answer that. He may be able to provide. I'm just going to look at it really quick to see if I can.
They're about waist high. I've been up there a couple times.
Yeah, I would say waist.
So I had a question about the railing that's going to go on top of the silo roof. From the diagram that we were given, it looks like on the west side where the curves of the silos are going, there's going to be railing installed on those as well. Is that correct?
That is what is shown on the plan, yes.
Okay. Would there also be a railing then in between? Because I believe that's a little drop off from the actual rooftop down to those curved parts. I may not be correct, but I think it's like a little 4 feet drop.
Oh, I'm not sure. So we might want to go ahead and ask the applicant about that. Do we have plans for putting stairs to get down to that lower section. I'm not aware of. And I have not been up there.
It's all ladders, pretty much.
That's 11 in there, right?
Okay. So if you don't have any more questions of staff, we do have a proponent here if Bob wants to invite Mr. Martin to speak.
Are you waiting for me?
Well, I am waiting for you.
Well, you're discussing something that I did not read in the application about hotel rooms and so on and so
Oh,
forth.
right.
So consequently, I was trying to quickly reread to see what I overlooked. That was our staff report, so our normal procedure now is to hear from the applicant. And do we have an applicant here with us on Zoom?
We do.
Well, have her or him come forward. James, or is Molly coming?
Molly's at home making chicken right now, so nice to meet you, Molly.
Okay. Hello, James. Tell us what you got in mind there, young man. Tell us, how, in our terms, what you were really looking for today from us, approval of.
So James, please state your name and
Doing like
address.
I am, trying to sort through this.
James Farm, Sunshine Mill. I think to answer the questions that everyone's having
Excuse
is
me, Mr. Martin, I need your actual address for the record.
901 East 2nd Street, The Dalles, Oregon.
Thank you.
I think the first question is, why would we have the taller railings than what's there right now? It's the purpose is to try to get some safety up there, and wind is a real issue. The way that the building sits right there near the river itself, it's got a massive wind shear, and so the 8-foot fence allows us to, through the railing design that we have, allows us to be able to move our, as you guys know, we have scaffolding that we utilize to do maintenance on the side of the building, how we've been able to do the painting, etc. That scaffolding has large C clamps that have to clamp onto the building itself, so we can continue the maintenance on the building and be able to paint it and slowly develop it as we have. And so we need a fencing system that allows that flexibility. And also, when our staff is up on the roof, the fear is material blowing off because it gets exceptionally windy. So at an 8-foot high railing, excuse me too, we got trains going by, which is the noise of the mill always. That allows us to have the same design and structure, but also allows us to have windscreen up. So we don't have to worry about things blowing off the roof or people blowing off the roof while we're doing these different activities. So, it's working with our architect. This is what they thought was when safety was the concern. What they thought was to have that wind break, so we don't have that condition of people blowing.
Excuse me, Mr. Martin, if you could look up while you're talking, we can hear you more clearly.
Sorry.
I forgot that I'm on. So hey, how are you guys doing?
Thank you.
So that was the concept with that. I think the other questions were the entry on the east side and what do we plan to do there. The main plan was to do a much larger entry. Obviously, with when we start working with the engineers, we designed out trying to have some substantial doors that were designed to be similar to what the windows were. So it was a continuation of the windows. Now with the COVID crisis and hospitality being a challenge, etc., we're slowly gradually moving towards this East Side project. So with that, we have some doors that we acquired from the Carnegie. What kind of name is that? Carnegie, anyway, you know, from the, and so we're attempting to put those in there. We'll have to cut out some of the window. So some of the window will be removed, the first 2 panes going up, because it's only 7 feet from the window to the ground itself. This gives us an access point on the side of the building for people to be able to go into the building. It also gives us an access site for production. We do use that area for cellar and production during harvest. So that's conceptually what we're trying to achieve there. I think the historic aspects of the building are always super critical to us as well. Without keeping the building the way it is, it's not the attraction that it's supposed to be. Sometimes this project, especially, the building is so large. You go to paint the building, it's the cost of a house to paint it. So it's really tricky doing any of these things in advance. Obviously, in the past, we didn't have the same issues where we were presenting to the HLC in the past. And so this is a new experience for us because we have a different approach to the city's now current interpretation that the building is now historic. And therefore, before we spent more money on engineering, which, you know, it's expensive, we wanted to make sure that we got this in front of you guys. We did have grants to do this work at one time, but we've been unable to hit those deadlines because of this application process, including, you know, obviously everything slowed down with the COVID issue. So, clear as mud. Bob, you're looking good, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Yes, I'm hearing a lot of things, but I think what your main application is, what you're approaching today, is that east side entranceway or exit, call it whatever you want at this point. And the railings up there, I think that we don't have an awful lot of control over, because OSHA is going to step in and tell you what you got to have if you're going to be up there. And so consequently, we'll have to bow to whatever OSHA says, or the state industrial people. So unless I misinterpreted this, I think our entranceway is our main object in this discussion. So while we got Jim here and he's James, does anyone on the commission have a question that pertains to entranceways? Probably would be as big as any. If you want to ask him anything on this aspect of it at this point? Don't hear much.
So this is Eric. I had one question, I guess. So are you going to be removing parts of all 4 windows on that wall to make doorways, or just the one main doorway that you'd have to remove 2 layers of glass?
Yeah, if Dawn, if you could bring that image back up, maybe we could look at it and talk about it.
A second. Okay, so
Getting closer.
I'm almost there.
Whoop, there you go.
There we go. Okay, we're good, James.
Now we lost James.
You lose him?
Right, so as you can see in this drawing, from the left to right, if we see there's a small window and an opening there. We don't plan to pursue that now. We had the engineering done for all of this to create a more grand opening again at this time with the COVID crisis. We're now just focused on the next window that is there. In that window, we would end up taking up the first two sets of windows. You can see there's a large bar there. It's actually, it's really two sets of windows. So we're moving at that first set of windows there, replacing it with a header, and then putting the doors in. So we have to obviously structure something for those Carnegie doors to go in there. But trying to add something historic. The mill itself never had any doors on it, with one exception, which was just a small metal door on the railroad. All the entrance came from the previous warehouse that a portion had burnt and then the city had torn down. So all of it came from, actually, there was no exterior doors on it to like match. So we tried to create our own that matches the mill by repurposing some metal within the building itself as the headers, etc. It's not a building that has a great deal of design. It's actually a flour mill with a building structure built around that, as more like a casement, because it's just one large piece of equipment, basically all tied together. So there's not a lot of redeeming architectural quality and design to it, but the industrial style is very attractive to us. Adding a couple of wood doors, warmth to the entry, which I think is important, but still stays very historically oriented in the design itself. So again, the second window over from the left is the one that we're proposing right now to make the cuts on. The next two, I guess we would just come back to you when we're ready to do those. I had hoped more that we were actually trying to get an approval for everything, but again, I don't foresee us.
So James, sorry, I did include all of the doors in the staff report today. So that was the intent.
Okay. If you go to the next slide 2, Don, then another question that everyone had was, what are we trying to do for the entry into the silos? And so right there, you can see that what this was this is actually, the silo building itself is actually 2 sets of silos built 20 years apart. So this is the second set of silos. They created all the truss forms for the silos themselves and poured the silo building itself, and then put the exterior walls on afterwards. And some of it actually had windows. So some of this is actually just the upper portion where it angles in is actually some cinder block fill that they put in. And someone decided they wanted to block those windows. So it's not a wall of structure. It's actually just a fill-in wall that was done afterwards. And again, you can see the upper half itself. Some of it's cinder block, some of it's just later pour. So nothing historic by nature. This creates access underneath this silos for us to do more barrel storage and more production there. As fewer people through the property, this gives us another point of entry from the east side that we currently don't have. So
Eric,
more questions, I guess.
Eric,
Yes, Bob.
are you getting the answer that you was requesting?
Yes, I think so. And yeah, thanks. I'm
Okay.
glad to get a little clarification on that.
Okay, thank you. Doug, if you got any questions you would like to ask about this particular aspect of what this application's about?
No, not really. The Martins have done a fantastic job on that building in retaining the inside and restoring the outside. I'm sure what they've got planned is probably a good thing. they've just done a great job on it so far. There's one drawing, I know it's just a drawing, but it's the one that has the kind of funny looking wine bottles on the outside. I think that, I don't know who proposed that, but I hope that wouldn't happen, but that's a long, long ways off. So, but anyway, I think they're, and I love the graphics on the building. I mean, there isn't anything that they've done so far that I would disapprove of at all.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate that.
Forrest, you're the new man in the borough here today. I haven't heard you speak out of. We've been talking about Sunshine Mill as a commission for 15 years at least, maybe longer. But you're new here, or take your new ideas that you may have. You do realize, though, it's beautiful drawings and beautiful concepts, and I hope that some of them work. Can't say we'll hope they all work, but some of them. But really, the application today is more about the east door and what we might do to the historic look of that building by putting a door in there. Am I going ahead of myself?
Nope, so yeah, we are.
Completely accurate.
Go ahead, James.
Forrest, I haven't heard anything from you. You didn't go home on me.
Yeah, I just want to say I strongly support Sunshine Mill. I actually got married there and we're wine members there. So I'm familiar with the property. I've been up on the rooftop. And that's the only question I actually had for James, where Dawn was unable to answer it for me. On the east side of the silo rooftop, I believe there's a little drop off before it gets to the little round parts of the actual silo. Is there going to be a fence separating that and then a fencing on the round parts of the silos as well? Or am I wrong?
Dawn, maybe if you brought up that image you had of the east side of the silos where you can see that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say east side? I believe it's on the west side of it.
You're right. It's the west side of it.
West side, this side, here we go. So this side,
East facing.
that's the east side, we went west side, sorry. There we go. So here's the west side. Do they not have it? Oh. I know. Hang on just a second, guys. Oops, sorry. There we go. Oh, I hit share screen, I thought, so I need to share screen. There we go. Yep. That's all right. Sorry, guys. We were looking at it and I'm like, why is no one talking? Sorry. I'm going down, sorry. Okay, there we go. Here is the west facing. There we go, sorry.
Yes.
Right. Yes. So the upper building above the silos is called the head house.
Yeah.
It's where all the wheat would come in and then feed down into the silos. We've been utilizing that for a few years for production. We actually do a small crush. So we crush them up there, it drops down to the silo on the right. And we tank that wine at the bottom. The purpose is going to expand that into a crush pad. And so with that, and you can see on the right silo above it on the head house, there's actually an exit door to the right, on the right side there. You can see the window, but then you can see a little door, right side.
Oh, sorry, right here.
There you go.
There's a door right there. So, and there's actually a small railing there, but again, a 3-foot high railing, pretty rusted out. So across that whole area, which someone can walk across, just putting up that 8-foot high windbreak screen / railing. And then we are painting that head house matching black to the trim of the mill building itself. And there's still a family argument as to whether we're going to try to, and we're still trying to figure out how into the whitewash the silos themselves. The problem with the white is that railroad tracks, railroad themselves, we pressure washed them 5 years ago and they were dirty within 5 years. So we don't want to lose that historic nature to the white of it, but at the same time, again, it's any project of painting this is exceptionally high expense. So we have talked about some other design doing murals. We're still trying to hang with the white and still trying to figure it out.
Thank you, James.
I had a quick question. So when you talk about the 8-foot railing, you also talk about it as a windbreak. So would it be kind of a solid railing, or is it kind of open, or is that windbreak a mobile thing that you put up when you need it and take it down when you don't?
Right. It's a frame similar to what first 4 feet will be a frame with maybe if Donna went to there's a picture of the railing that we have above the electric motor room. So anyway, there we would continue with that style at the first 4 feet. And then the posts themselves go up higher to accommodate for wiring that allows that windscreen to be pulled across there when we need it. And that, again, is for the same purposes that you guys would like, which is you don't want to see something super, super large there. But at the same time, when we need that windscreen up we're concerned about things falling off the building on people or whatever, we can pull that across there.
All right, thank you.
Screen on, yeah.
Thanks, that makes it much more clear to me.
All right. Thank you, James. Don't go way too far. We might want to call on you again.
Okay.
I'm going to ask if anybody on our network that is opposed to this addition, cutting this entrance in the east wall and fixing up the handrails. Anybody wants to speak up? Now is your chance. Do we have anybody?
Just a minute, Bob.
Okay. Does anyone on the commission have something further they would like to ask James before we close the public part of this and mingle amongst ourselves? Hearing none at this point, I'm going to close the public hearing. And we are now in session to discuss this as commission members. And Dawn, would you refresh us the main objective of, because I'm proposing, is the main objective is an entranceway?
So the conclusion I have of the staff report is that the proposed installation of safety fencing, the new lighted arches and door openings on both the mill and silo buildings will be allowed and be accepted, should be approved by the commission. And with that conclusion and staff's recommendation, I provided 7 conditions of approval that included that the work be completed in substantial conformance to the submittals, pictures and proposals, that prior to construction, the applicant shall receive city approval and follow up with building codes. The 3rd condition is a modification will not alter the essential form and integrity of the historic property, as well as utmost care be taken with construction of the new fencing, arches, and door openings. Number 4, cleaning of the historic structure requires the gentlest means possible. Number 5, painting will be required to follow historic guidelines and be approved by city staff prior to start of work. Number 6, any deteriorating historical features shall be repaired rather than replaced. And then number 7, we did include the archaeological resources. If anything's discovered during excavation, that they must stop excavation and have the site professionally evaluated. And that's due to the 1 entries that will be at grade level to access the basement of the mill building.
We have had no discussion today about where the entrance to the mill room, which I'm lost it, but yes, the milling room would be. They would modify the door that already exists on the extreme west side.
So correct. Those are the doors. The mill is the tall building. Those were the 4 doors that James. So we went over that. The windows above. Yes.
Right.
So that will be where those are.
Where I read this application, they're talking about cutting door openings in the mill, silo, and mill buildings.
Correct.
And we have not talked just where it would be in the mill building, but it will be probably where the existing door is, and it'd be an improvement on it.
Bob, that is what James explained, that had the photo that showed all of the windows, and then the red markings below that showed all those doors being removed, or those openings being done. That's the mill building, and then on the silos was the 1 large door that's being put where the CMU type wall was replaced.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So we're in the discussion amongst ourselves, commission members. Anybody got questions of each other? Questions to staff?
I don't have any questions, Bob.
I would like to have someone make a motion to approve this application.
I move to approve this application with the conditions of approval as set forth.
Is there a second?
Doug, you're muted.
Do I hear a second?
Oops. Doug, you're muted. We need you to push your button if you're talking. You're muted.
I'm
Doug,
not doing it.
if you want a second, raise your hand. Thank you.
Are you
Good
there?
save. I'm there. So it sounds like it's been moved and seconded.
Now I didn't hear the second. That's what I heard. So, is there any further discussion? All in favor of this motion as presented, please raise your hand, identify yourself, and say aye.
Aye, Forrest.
Hi,
Bob.
Eric.
I have my hand
Aye.
over in front of the camera.
Hi, Eric.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. If you're still there, I was in the mill in that building Sunday, and I was absolutely impressed to no end. I can see multitudes of problems for you to make it accessible to the world, but I hope you keep struggling at it. There, I said that.
Very, very kind of all of you guys to share some insight with me on the property, and thanks, Don, for all your efforts, and everybody. Thank you.
You bet. We'll talk soon, James.
If you want
Okay.
a little history, in about it was a late,
Excuse me, Carolyn? You need
Carolyn
to-
Wood, 1709 Liberty Way.
Thank you.
Yes, I totally support this, but the board at that time from the community college went through that building and rode the little cup elevator all the way to the top. Anyway, we did tried to envision how we could turn that into a community college.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, that was just one of many that we went through and buildings that we were looking at, trying to figure out what we could do. But anyway, it's come to a good purpose, and I'm very pleased with that.
Yeah, and I mean, to commend the Martins on their continued I mean, some of their plans have changed along the way, but they really have stuck to what their vision was, and it's been really impressive to see it come into shape.
Very good.
Thank you, Don.
Bob McNary.
Yes.
This is City Councilman Timothy James McLaughlin,
Yes, sir.
328 West 21st Place, student ID number 7248483. With that being said, with the addition of Scott Randall on City Council, I will move over to the Airport Commission, and Scott will be joining you at the next month's meeting. Thank you very much for allowing me to participate and listen, and the best of luck to you.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks so much. It's been great having you on and helping us out.
You bet. I'll see you later.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
You bet.
Now, we have approved this motion. So I think the next two items of business is to get our resolutions done. And in my office, I'm trying to figure out what I possibly have done with them, but they're here. I know they are. Pardon me, but I unplugged myself and aimed myself. That's not the right one. Anyhow, we needed the resolution for referring back to the cleaners. What is the number of it, Don?
It is HLC, resolution HLC number 166-20, approval of HLC 178-20 of Scott Austin, with 7 conditions of approval as stated.
Okay, we're ready for a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll make that motion. I make the motion that we approve resolution HLC 166-20 with the modified conditions of approval.
I'll second that.
First.
If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of the approving the resolution 167-20, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, now we'll turn the page over here, and there's going to be one for resolution. Oh, they go sequential this time. That's very good. All right. I'll make the motion. Make a motion that we approve Historic Landmark Resolution 168-20 with the conditions of approval. I don't think we modified those in any way, shape, or form, did we? So they are as they are.
Correct, as stated.
I'll second that. Eric?
Okay. If there's no discussion, all in favor of approving resolution 168-20, raise your hand and say aye. And Bob?
Aye, Eric.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, I guess that resolution passed. I knew it was here someplace. All right. Now we come up to time to say what we, and this is very frustrating to me. I don't know that I've ever been more frustrated trying to do this over Zoom. It's more than my little mental system can handle. Is there anything from staff that would like to pass on? We are aware of, as a commission, that we're a little bit short of help.
We are a little.
Our applicants.
We are a little short of help, as you are all aware. We do have currently one position open. The mayor, so if you have somebody that would be interested, please direct them to the city's webpage and make application to join the Historic Landmark Commission. I have had a few inquiries. The big thing that we're really trying to emphasize is meeting our educational requirement or professional requirement as stated with our certified local government. However, if we are in a bind, the State Historic Preservation Office will allow for somebody that does not necessarily meet those requirements. But if somebody's interested, please send them my way if they have any questions. And the mayor is who appoints. So obviously an application doesn't automatically mean you are accepted. We do have somebody in the audience here that I don't know if she would be interested, but you know, she knows how to get to the city's website. Carolyn.
You guys are.
Carolyn.
So with that, we do have the one opening right now. The other thing I was going to mention was that Councilor McLaughlin will no longer be our representative. We do have a new representative. Hopefully he will be with us next month. And at this time, we do not have any direction in terms of, and I know Bob does not want to hear this, if we will be going to live meetings in July. So as of right now, we are unsure, and as soon as I find out, I will share with the commission. Obviously, we do need to make sure that we are all safe, and I know I'd love to see you all in person, but sometimes we got to follow the rules. So, and that's pretty much all I have for right now.
I have a couple of questions, Dawn.
Okay.
When would we be updating our historical guidelines, like for the wood frame windows to be inclusive to metal? Is that something that we have to agree on as commission, or would you just have to do that on your end?
You would, I have a note here with a big asterisk that says to do. So that will be, I think, depending on, we've got some changes going on in our office right now. So I'm going to work that in on my schedule. And look, we will have to do a code revision, and that code revision will include coming before you, as well as going to City Council for final approval of the modification.
Okay, and kind of along those same guidelines, are we gonna look at revising our rooftop guidelines at all? Because since now we're looking at skylights on one, and then there's like the water tanks on top of the sunshine mill, and that is visible. So do we have anything that really in our guidelines that stipulates rooftops?
Not really, and I think, and it may not necessarily be in the guidelines, but what I would suggest is that we take a look at all of our guidelines and we go through, and we probably do need to look at revamping and or updating, as Eric had mentioned earlier, that we're getting into some buildings that are considered historic that really weren't addressed. Because our period of significance for downtown was predominantly dealing turn of the century, which were wood windows, not the metal. So we do have some industrial type buildings in downtown. We've had 2 today that have metal type windows at least. But we can, I think we should just look at everything and kind of go through if the State Historic Preservation would be able to give us any recommendations on making some modifications. And in the past, the historic landmark, or the State Historic Preservation Office has really encouraged certified local governments to take the initiative and ensure, and that's what the great thing about being a certified local government is, that we have the power to make decisions on local buildings. We have the flexibility if needed, or following the guidelines, but still to use some common sense. And sometimes we've made some decisions, or that his commission has made decisions that ensure the use of the building and sometimes don't preserve absolutely every historic component. We want to do it, sometimes it just doesn't make sense. So and maybe we want to build more into our design guidelines, and maybe we don't. And we just, but I think we should look at everything and bring all of those. It's probably going to be a couple months before we've got another application next month. So I'm thinking probably early fall, we can bring the design guidelines and start going through, maybe looking at some suggested changes.
Thank you. I agree with that.
Great. Great question. Thank you.
Doug, you're still muted, unfortunately. Should be in the bottom corner there somewhere.
Yeah, in the bottom corner, should have like a little microphone.
It'll be, look for a little red microphone.
Are you looking at me?
Doug, we're talking to Doug. We can't hear him.
Doug? Are you there?
Doug, we can't hear you. We cannot hear you. You're muted.
Yeah,
I can't understand how this plug falls out, but it does. My plug falling out. Now you can hear me again.
I think Doug's getting tech support.
He is Texas calling in.
Any further comment by any of the commissioners?
Doug wants to comment. Let's give him a minute.
There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know which button to push. We used to refer to it as the blue building, and they painted the front side of it.
Yes.
And they didn't paint the alley. I don't know whether, we could recommend when people go to paint, but it really looks crappy with that side not painted. It's like painting the front of your house and not doing the sides. And I know we maybe can't do any more than recommend, but it sure would clean things up if people would paint the alley side also.
Right, so we do have, the unfortunate thing with what happened with that is that he did that without gaining approval from the planning department or me as the secretary. So I did reach out to Mr. Zilka. He did provide an application, so we will be discussing his plans for that building next month in July. So that will include paint as well as windows and any type of restoration plans for the building. So you will be seeing that soon, and obviously the paint, I think, will be part of the discussion for that meeting.
Oh, good.
I do like the color, I will say that, so it's better than
Well,
that.
I like the color. It'd look a lot better if the side was painted the same color.
I did, I actually had a neighbor business mention that also to me last weekend. So seems like a general consensus.
So, sorry.
Go ahead.
This is a random question. I was asked by a citizen the other day about the building across the railroad tracks on First Street because she knew that I was with part of the Landmarks Commission here, and I didn't have an answer for her. Does anyone know what's up with that building, where we stand on that?
Eric, do you want to answer that? Do you want me to try? Oh.
Eric.
I think Eric's frozen.
Yeah.
Oh, he's there.
Now we've brought forward.
Eric, can you hear us? Eric? I don't think Eric can hear us. Okay, so Forrest, I'll give it a good shot. Eric would be the best person to answer in terms of the preservation side. So in terms of the city side, it was determined by City Council a few years ago that they were not going to be putting additional funds into that building, and they were looking to, and unfortunately Tim McLaughlin stepped up also. Tim is also one that knows a lot about the plans for the Getchell building. So right now, as it stands, the city went out for some proposals, 2 years ago? It's been a while, for demolition. There was also some discussion about relocation and trying to find a spot where that building could be relocated and moved to. Very cost prohibitive, and there is a group that has formed to try to save that building and trying to keep it in place. So Eric, I don't know if you can hear me yet. I don't think he can. So anyway, that's where it stands right now. And just in layman terms, right now is the city does not have the funds because it is very expensive to demolish it. So in a sense, us not having funds to demolish it is saving it or providing a little bit longer time for it to be saved. It is, I believe the state preservation office has it listed as one of the most endangered buildings for this. They have that actually stated. So that does help for any potential granting opportunities, but at this time, I'm not sure where they're at. And Eric, can you hear me yet, Eric? Yeah, I don't.
Well, thank you, John. At least that gives me some information for it. Thank you.
Right, and if you, Forrest, if you definitely want some more details in terms of the preservation side, definitely get a hold of Eric. He will, couldn't ask for a better advocate. This group, it is a goal of yours to help preserve and save that building in place. City council's direction's a little different than the commission, which is fine. Obviously, we hope it can be saved for preservation purposes.
Yes, thank you.
You bet.
If no more commissioners have questions, Tim is gone, I understand. I don't know if Donna ever was with us tonight or this afternoon, but I'd entertain a motion that we have a adjournment.
Oh, so our next meeting date, sorry, is July 22nd, 2020.
Oh, our next meeting?
Yep. And
I
now
hope
we can
that
go.
I hope we're in real time. Do I hear any disagreement with adjourning? Doug, you're back. I see you. You look wonderful. Are you ready to quit?
Yes, I am. I
Okay.
make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Thank you. I'll second that. And I think we can all just gently unplug and have a little tidy time. My dinner's cooking and it smells awful good in the background. So
Thank you, everybody.
I thank you all for putting up with me. I got off to a very, very rocky start, but I hope we got our job done.
We did. You did. We did. We made it. Thank you. Bye, guys.
Thank you,
You're
everyone.
doing just fine, Bob.
Good night, all.
Bye.